the program director of Sirius XM's On Broadway and host of Broadway Names with Julie James. So, we could, of course, go on the whole evening talking about everyone's accolades here, so I'll keep it kind of Pippin focused. Firstly, we have the Tony-winning performer of the leading player role in the original Broadway cast. Next, we just heard him as our Pippin in the 50th anniversary concert, an Olivier Award nominee, here with us all the way from the UK, Mr. Jack Yarrow. Next, she played Bertha in the 2013 revival of Pippin and has received many Tony and Emmy nominations for her many sparkling roles, Ms. Tovah Feldshuh. Opposite Ben Vereen as Pippin in the original Broadway cast, Tony winner John Rubenstein. Now, your leading player of the Pippin 50th anniversary concert, the Tony-winning and incomparable Alex Newell. The author of Pippin, Wicked, and so many of your favorite songs and shows, the one and only Tony winner, Stephen Schwartz. Just a small note here, Ben Vereen will have to sneak out for another engagement uptown. When he does, we'll wish him well on his way. And now I'll turn it over to Julie James.
Congratulations and welcome all on this incredible moment in time, in history. Who better to start with than our maestro, Stephen Schwartz. When you think of an incredible time to revisit Pippin at 50 years old, and I think one of the most amazing things about Pippin, I wonder if you'll agree, is how resonant it is with audiences of all ages over all of these decades. What do you attribute its sort of timelessness to, and how did it feel to revisit it in London?
Well, first of all, as you can see, and then you have to just watch that whole opening number again. It's going to be so weird. But as you can see from the opening number and Alex's incredible performance and Corner of the Sky, it was considering the fact, especially that it was thrown together so fast as these things are, it was such a remarkable cast and they did such a great job with it. So it was very exciting to be there. I should say that Pippin is actually lying about its age a little bit. It's actually 53, as we tend to shave those things down. You know, people keep getting born and hitting adolescence, and I think, you know, the journey that Pippin goes through, trying to figure out what to do with his life, and seeing some of his illusions dashed, but finding some other realer things to hold on to. I think that journey remains universal and constant, and you know, that's why the show continues to have appeal and didn't date or hasn't yet.
Do you think that any of it had to do with your own age at the time?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
You know, Pippin began, as many of you probably know, as a project that I did when I was at Carnegie Mellon. At the time, when it was first written, it was more of a medieval melodrama musical along the lines of Lion in Winter, which we drama students were very much enamored of at that time. But then as it developed and there was interest in transforming it into a professional production, it sort of transmogrified into being semi-autobiographical, because I was in my early 20s at the time. And then we were very fortunate. First of all, I was fortunate to be linked in collaboration with Roger Herson, who could come at it from a more mature point of view, and then with Bob Fosse, who could come at it with a darker point of view. So I think that amalgamation turned out to be very good for the show.
And so for our original stars, Ben and John, what does it feel like for you when you hear this iconic music and that you spent so much time with being sort of discovered over and over and over, but also as we got a little taste of it tonight on screen, does it still bring the feels?
Yes.
They never did that.
The answer is yes.
I remember standing backstage at the Kennedy Center in the Opera House before our very first preview of the very first out-of-town tryout run of the show. And Ben was already working on stage doing Magic to Do, but I hadn't come on stage yet to sing Corner of the Sky and then sort of be on there for the rest of the time singing way more high notes than any composer should have written for a non-singer. And I literally remember standing there listening to the music and behind the curtains and saying, why would you do this to yourself? But then it was my cue and I came on and I sang that song and many times after that. It was great.
One of the most iconic songs in all of musical theater history, am I right? Corner of the Sky, come on. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable to even just take in what this music means to so many of us. When you see it, Ben, do you see it through your own eyes of that young man who was the leading player in the 1970s?
Yes, and I'm so thankful that it's metamorphosed to where it is today. It's so wonderful seeing, thank you, Stephen, for having the vision to allow it to grow for generations, because this is timeless. This piece is when we were doing it, the critics didn't like it, But Bob Fosse, in his genius, said, let's do a commercial. And we hit a commercial, and that opened it up a great deal. But the fact that Stephen, I remember seeing Stephen as a kid, he was like this little child sitting in the theater when I came and auditioned. And he would walk by him, he was sitting on these little stoops that they put in chairs for kids, He was sitting, and I was auditioning. And I had no idea what this show was going to do or where it was going to go, because there wasn't a role for the leading player at the time. But I'm watching it now, and I still get goosebumps. I want to thank my London cast for keeping it alive, and everybody who's walked in John and I's shoes along the way.
I had no shoes.
That's right. You didn't have them. I had shoes which were too small for me in the Kennedy Center. Those shoes came in a size too small. Remember that?
They kept making new shoes for me.
Yeah.
And I finally had a tantrum before one of the performances because I have big bunions. And I couldn't stand it. And I said to Patty Ziprot, the costume designer,
Patty,
I can't wear these another time. We were on a rake like this, So I threw them angrily into the corner of the stage, and I walked on stage, and I did the whole show barefoot, cut my feet, and I figured that'll show them. Now they'll get me a pair of shoes that fit. And we finished the show, and
I kept walking.
Fosse ran backstage and said, John, the barefoot, I loved it.
Meanwhile, they kept me in those tiny shoes, and I kept jumping around the stage, and the reviewer said, Ben Vereen, freedom feet. Yeah, it feels good. It feels good. See, it didn't feel good then, but it feels good.
Well, Jack, what are your feelings when, I mean, Pippin is, of course, in this incredible bucket list of roles for so many people of all ages. You got to play it in London. Thank you for being with us tonight, by the way. He's from London, so we're
Well, it worked out so well because I wasn't supposed to be here and I was in New York, and then I was lucky enough to be contacted and they said this event was happening and I was like, please, can I come?
That's so thrilling that you got to be here
No,
on
I'm
this,
thrilled
on
to
this
be
very
here.
night. But when you're hearing these, composer Stephen Schwartz, the original Pippin, the original leading player, what goes through you when you're on the stage, even sharing space with them tonight?
Scary. No, I mean, it's beyond anything that I could have imagined. I actually was WhatsApping with my parents when I was in the car on the way here, and I was driving through Broadway on the way here, and I was like, how the hell did I end up here? It's unbelievable because, like you said, Pippin is a dream role for so many people. It wasn't ever something I thought I would do because when I was in college, the amazing Broadway revival had just happened, and I thought, well, that's happened now, so it's not going to happen again for a long time. So when this came up, I was so excited to be asked to be a part of it. But I used to sing Corner of the Sky when I was at college when I was about 15, I think, and it was my dad's favorite song that I used to sing, so he always used to be like, oh, do Corner of the Sky. And funnily enough, actually, my dad's claim to fame is he was once dragged up on stage to participate in a production of Godspell in our local theatre. And he was like, I made my stage debut before you did in Godspell. So there you go. But he'll be thrilled that I'm saying that in front of Stephen. But it feels great. It feels amazing to be here with John and with everybody. It's mind-blowing, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, here I am burying the lead. Tony winner Alex Newell as the leading player. I mean, I think ripples, there are certain pieces of news that when they come out, they just cause ripples and ripples and ripples, and everyone was talking about seeing you do this role, which is, so fantastic on your voice and for your unique set of gifts and skills.
Yes.
Yeah, and it seems that you're getting some feedback from Ben Vereen.
Love the notes.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about your experience. I know it was a even quicker than City Center type of process, but I am assuming it was a bit bucket list for you too.
It was. I have always been obsessed with Pippin, and when I was a kid, PBS used to show things, and Ain't Misbehaved would show on, and Pippin would show on, and as like a toddler, you don't know what you're watching, you just like hear melodies and you sing them back, and so as a kid, I would like run around the house singing, just for you, and then I really sat down when I was an adult filming Glee, and I watched it from beginning to end, the original that was filmed, and I fell in love with it. And I was supposed to play Pippin. I think while I was watching it, I was supposed to play leading player in my high school production of Pippin, and I couldn't because I was filming Glee at the time, and I was heartbroken. I was like devastated. I turned out fine, but I was still devastated. Perfectly fine, and it's fine, guys. And so I thought that I had missed my opportunity to ever get to play it, and the only thing that I can say that it fueled me was you always want to do great by the work that was created. And I think while doing so many things in the short process that we had to create this, it was, I just need to do right by the original work. And so that's what got me and kept me going in this amazing cast and company that I get to do it with.
Yeah.
Alex, who directed this?
Jonathan Boyle?
Yeah.
Jonathan Boyle?
Yeah.
Okay. It was wonderful. The opening number is wonderful, and you're magnificent in it.
Thank you.
You make me proud. You make me proud.
Thank you. That's all you want to hear.
That's all.
When the legends are still living, that's what you want to hear.
Yes.
Right. Thank you and good night. No, that's it. But let's create connectivity. It's really cool to me sitting here for a number of reasons to be in the presence of such greatness, but we do have Ben Vereen, who led the way as leading player. Remember how revolutionary it seemed at the time for Patina Miller to be the leading player in 2013, and then
That's because they couldn't find another guy.
Yeah, that's
to
what
replace
you
me.
can't be topped, Ben.
That's actually true. That's actually what happened. We saw a lot of very, very talented male performers, and Diane Paulus, wonderful to work with, and we would talk to Ferds, and we were like, yeah, it's not going to be Ben. And so finally, then the decision was made, well, maybe we just switch that gender, and we start seeing possible female performers. That turned out to be a really good choice.
Thank you.
So incredible.
Actually, what happened?
So incredible. And
Thank you,
then
Stephen.
I actually saw a high school production in New Rochelle this weekend with a female identifying leading
Yes.
player, and it was unbelievable.
Excuse
it was
me, if I
fantastic.
may
You'd be
ask,
so proud.
did Paula Kelly do the leading player? I think she was the first female to do the leading player. Paula Kelly.
Yes, she did.
Oh,
Yeah.
fabulous.
And I think in Australia,
Oh,
wasn't it?
that could be.
Oh, I love knowing
I mean,
that.
I've seen versions where there are multiple leading players
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
various
Oh, yes.
genders, etc.
Yeah.
But I didn't see Paula do
Yeah.
it. But I guess, yeah.
She was wonderful.
So that this has always been, it's been open to the interpretation of any number of identifying performers. So
They
cool.
couldn't find another Ben Vereen.
I mean,
Do you understand?
let the record show. Let the record show, and we're so grateful for it, Ben. We're so grateful for it.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to leave soon, right? 5 minutes.
Okay.
I just want to say
Yes.
thank you to the cast. Thank you for keeping our legacy alive. You're doing such a magnificent, beautiful job. Our footprints, John and I, were watching this in the music with the choir, and it was so magnificent. And I'll have to leave because there's another production, but I have to go to another event. But you'll see me at Stephen Schwartz's revival of the Hunchback of Notre Dame. The Hunchback. So thank you, Stephen. Have a wonderful night.
Ben, before we lose you, let me just take the last couple of spare moments that we have with you, because I feel that Pippin is sort of inextricably linked with the legacy of Bob Fosse. And
Yes.
when I think of the legacy of Bob Fosse, I think of it being in your such wonderful hands as someone we have to glean things from Fosse. When you saw even touches of it
Oh, it was
here,
beautiful.
even in the concert production, that was
so
really
wonderfully-
a wonderful touch.
wonderfully done.
What can you leave us with in terms of, Bob didn't get to see that here we are in 2025 still celebrating Pippin. What can you say to us about, that legacy and what you think maybe he would be thinking if he could join us right now?
Bob would be quite proud. My view, Bob would be smiling that we're keeping it going, and his style is still sprinkled throughout the choreography. No matter who does it, they've got to get a touch of that, the hands, the hips.
Yeah.
You gotta have a taste of it.
Yeah.
So yes, Bob would be proud.
I'm so glad.
You guys doing a good job. You guys doing a good job.
Good job.
So now this is filmed now, right? I can watch on HD, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's why we have HD. And I want to leave you with this. They will not erase us. The arts are here to stay. It is the foundation of our existence. We will not let them push us back, nor erase us. Thank you, HD, for keeping us alive.
The great Ben Vereen, everyone. We're so lucky to have you here tonight. Thank you, Ben. Love it. All right. Well, on we go with another star of our show who spent, I believe it was 6 months with the revival of Pippin, the one and only Tovah Feldshuh. tonight, Tovah.
Unfortunately.
What was that experience like for you?
Well, I got a call from Barry Weissler, and he said, Tovah, we want you to do Bear to the Grandmother for us. And Pippin, can you come down to the theater and play on the trapeze? We'd like to see if trapeze is part of your world. So I bike down to the theater, and that is my audition, mind you. I walk in, the minute I walk in, I'm hoisted 30 feet in the air. No belt, no mat, no insurance, no problem. And Barry calls up to the rafters of the Music Box Theater, because I was hanging up there, and he said, Tovah, 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 Tovah. Are you scared, scared, scared? And I thought to myself, no, no, no. Are you? When I was a little girl on an acre of land in Scarsdale, New York, my parents bought a swing set. It had a pedal pusher, it had a swing, and it had a metal trapeze that I would hang upside down in the summers in my brother David Feldshuh's hand-me-down brown shorts. I hated those brown shorts. And in the winter in my green snowsuit. I was a little kid. So when I got up on that trapeze, Julie, it's like when I still ride my bike in New York, it was going back to my childhood. And the grandmother, besides being a font of wisdom and a font of love for her legacy, which is her grandson, she says she wants to stay young till she dies. And that's what that part did for me. And I was supposed to be there for 2 weeks when Andrea took her vacation, and I was there for 6 months and 2 weeks. Because that was the part that Barry changes every 6 months to up the publicity. I was very sad. I wanted to stay. So I had to go on to television series.
Darn!
Yeah. I loved it, and being with Patina and being with the people, you know, Terrence Mann and Charlotte D'Amboise, and I'm old enough, like, I knew Charlotte's father. Wow. Like, one of my favorite directors is Scott Schwartz, and he was in the belly of Carol Schwartz in 1974 when I worked for Stephen. So I know everybody's parents, and it's wonderful to have been able to sustain my career for 52 years on Broadway.
That's incredible. That's fantastic. We have a couple of different dots to connect. I as well. I worked with Scott Schwartz as well when I was in Boston. He was directing a show at the ART when he was a student, and I was at Boston Conservatory, and so I snuck out to Cambridge every day and worked with Scott, such a talented family. And I was just regaling John with a story of me being a 19-year-old that ended up on a concert bill that he was on as well, and I have the picture on my phone with LaChance and Alec Baldwin and Stockard Channing, and I was a 19-year-old classical nerd that was like, where am I? What's happening? So it's lovely to reconnect with all of these many things. I guess if you live long enough, you'll connect some dots, right?
And have your health.
Yes.
Your health is your wealth.
Yes. Well, I was thinking today as I ruminated over the production I saw over the weekend, and then this film version, and then what we saw tonight, the lyric that always goes through my mind time after time after time. I want to live a life that's something more than long. Isn't that just like gospel truth, everybody? Isn't that just beautiful? May it be so for all of us. That is my wish for tonight. Yeah.
It's pretty extraordinary that 24 years old or even younger, after all, I guess at Carnegie you were 21 or maybe less, that you would write about such profound things that go into the river of common human experience. Yes. So therefore it just keeps going. Some of the quotes were so disturbing as I watched the tape, where the father says, you know, I brought order, and if we have to have, I brought order from chaos, I'm paraphrasing, and if we have to have bloodshed and war, then I'm proud of it. There's really some amazing stuff written over 50 years ago. So bravo.
Yeah. Thinking of Pippin, thinking of this incredible kind of concentrated time of Stephen Schwartz celebration that we've been in for a while now. Who's with me? Wicked on Broadway, just still still breaking records at the box office, and then this triumph of part one. And we have part two to look forward to later in 2025. What has this time of your life been feeling like for you?
Well, it's a little bit like keeping those plates spinning, though, Julie, because the problem is there is part two that we have to sort of, we're working on every day. And the clock, as you point out, is ticking, since something's going to be on a screen in November of 25, and we would like it to be finished, so appear to be finished, so there's that. And I start a workshop tomorrow, as I think you know, for a new show called The Queen of Versailles that Kristen Chenoweth is doing, and that opens in November. So,
oh my gosh, here you go again.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot of time to catch my breath, but these are, as they say, good problems to have.
Absolutely. Oh, it's been so incredible, and I think that what's really worth acknowledging is Wicked on screen as a worldwide phenomenon opens it up to so many hearts and homes and lives from, again, all ages. But we're really celebrating here tonight, and it's so meaningful to me, and I know so many of us, that Broadway HD is doing that same mission. I wanted so badly, I have so many friends that go to the UK and watch these shows, and it was not going to happen for me, and now I was able to experience it, and I'm just so overjoyed that so many people all around the world will be able to experience this evening and hundreds of others.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, I think it's really good to acknowledge the valuable thing that Broadway HD is doing. I think all of us have performances that were legendary performances that we're like, oh gosh, I wish I'd seen Gertrude Lawrence in King and I, or something like that. And now the fact that these sorts of recordings are happening, and not just happening in a set up one camera in the back of the theater and let it go, but really with great care in terms of how they're filmed, how they're edited, the technical quality of the sound, etc. It's such a great contribution, so thanks to both of you so much for sticking
Thank
with
you
us.
so much. And on that note, how does it feel for Jack and Alex knowing that so many people that weren't able to make the trip will be able to experience it? I mean, you're a visitor here I know you're here often, from what you told me, but you're getting an American audience that's getting to experience your performance as Pippin.
I know. It's kind of wild, because also, as Alex said earlier, we did put it together so fast. I think I was cast on a Thursday and went into rehearsal on the Monday, and we were performing it that weekend. It was insane. And so to kind of have that short of a time span with it, and then for it to be out there for public consumption, it's a little bit daunting, but it was an amazing event. We had the most amazing time. It was such a hoot. The material is, off the scale. So I'm glad that it was recorded. I haven't watched the whole thing yet because I'm scared. But when I bring myself to watch the whole thing, whenever that might be, I know that I'm going to look back on it and be so thrilled that it's captured in such beautiful quality, and we can look back and remember all those amazing times that we had. It was a blast. It really was.
I'm so glad. Did it whet your appetite, Alex? Do you want to do like a full run now that you've gotten into it?
Ooh, 8 shows a week. Yay!
How about you do 6 and Ben will do 2?
Oh yes, Ben will do 5, I will do 3. I think that's fair. No, it really made me want to work on the West End. I do 8 for the West End, but not saying that I would not do 8 for Broadway. But it really made me want to be over there, and it tickled my fancy and wet my whistle. But it was so fast. I was filming a movie in Italy while rehearsing for that at the same time, and allegedly it's the leading player. And she's on stage the entire time. And there was one night that I was telling Jack this on the carpet. They were behind the hay bales and they were doing the scene. And then I went into the white room and then I looked behind and I just said, I can't. It's not scripted. I just could not remember what I was saying in that moment. And I think it's in this. Yay. But yes, it made me want to do it all again. And I would do it all again for everyone in this room and for Stephen.
Okay.
With rehearsal.
Oh, with
This time with rehearsal.
With at least 6 weeks.
Terrifying to even hear about. John, as our remaining original cast member here on the stage. What?
Yeah.
Microcosm of life.
Right, you are the ambassador. What do you have any? Were any memories that you were maybe thinking of or storing start to pop out, that you start to hear that music, you think of anything from being on stage to recording the album? I mean, that album was so seminal. We were chatting just before we started here tonight about the importance of cast recordings and how meaningful they can be to the legacy and the life and the future of a show, because of its cast recording. So maybe you want to share something about making that recording. Does something come to mind that you recall about it?
Gosh, so many memories. I mean, I could sit here and talk for 4 hours about Pippin. I mean,
And we would listen.
no. I grew up in this city, fell in love with the theater. In those days, young kids who loved the theater and were in grade school and high school could afford to go to the theater. What a concept, isn't it? So with my not very huge allowance, I saw everything on Broadway. All the musicals, all the plays. I got all the albums. So I just hoped that one day I might be able to get a tiny little role in some Broadway play and come on and say a couple of lines, and that would be all I ever wanted. And then it's a very long story, which I will not tell you at all. This role came to me, and one of my first memories is I auditioned for it first with Bob Fosse in my house in Los Angeles.
What?
That's a long story. I have to skip it because some of you need to get home. But by hook and crook and another hook and another crook, Bob was in my house, and I played Laura Nyro songs for him. Because I loved Laura Nyro. Anybody remember?
Sure.
Yes.
And I would accompany myself and play and sing. So he said, okay, you can sort of sing. Let's read the script. We read the script together. He played all the parts, I played Pippin. And then he left. My wife was 8 months pregnant, and we went to bed. But then the door knocked at just about midnight, and it was Bob. And our bedroom was the first door you came to, so he came right to there. And he said, here, he gave me a tape. He said, learn the second song, come to New York in 3 days. Second song was Corner of the Sky. I learned it from the tape. He didn't give me any music to read. Came to New York, and my audition, that day the New York Times had put some sort of an ad in saying any person from age 18 to 35 who wants to play the title role in the next Stephen Schwartz, Bob Fosse musical on Broadway, come to the whatever theater that was, and we'll listen to you. So I had an appointment, and a few of us did. So I came to the theater, but there was a line down 44th Street and all down 8th Avenue of all these guys, you know, some with hippie beads and things, others in little ties and with their 8x10s. Hundreds of them went in there, and I went down into the orchestra pit because I had no sheet music. And I played my 2 Laura Nyro songs while Stephen and Roger and Stuart Ostro, the producer, and Bob Fosse leaned over and in the pit piano there. I played and I sang up to them. And then I sang Corner of the Sky, which there was an accompanist. And then you guys talked for about 2 minutes. And then Bob ran down the aisle and came up to the stage and said, "Part's yours if you want it."
Whoa.
It's the one and only time that's ever happened in my entire life. And then he said, but work out a little bit, will you?
I saw you. You were wondering. I remember you kept going like this.
Yeah. Oh, well, that was another thing. We were in rehearsal. And we go, just him and me and the accompanist, into the private little room, not the big one, where the dancers were. And he said, "Let's do Corner of the Sky." I go, "Oh, okay. Everything. And he said, "No, be more free about it. You know, just do whatever you want." I said, "Well, you're Bob Fosse, tell me what to do." And he said, no, just whatever. And I said, "Oh, okay." So almost making fun of the notion of blocking myself in a song, I did those ridiculous, exaggerated, too obvious gestures. Rivers belong where they can run and blow. Eagles belong where they can fly. And every time I came to that refrain, I did that, waiting for him to say, "Oh, God, stop that," you know. He didn't, and I did that for 2 years. I never got over my slight embarrassment at doing it. Anyway. There's a lot more, but I'll shut up now.
Wow.
It was great fun. One of the most fun parts was that Stephen flew out to Los Angeles at one point for something else. I don't think it was about Pippin. Before we started rehearsals, I had the role, so that had been done. But then he was suddenly, I live in LA, so he was out there and he called me up. And he was staying at the Beverly Hills Hotel, and he had a piano in his room. And
Not on my dime.
no, I don't. And we came together and we immediately started talking about Laura Nyro. And we sat down at that little piano and played 4 hands, a whole bunch of Laura Nyro songs.
Aww.
And I have felt like he's my brother ever since.
Oh, that's so sweet. It was Pippin's. Your sound is in that pocket. I actually had the thought to ask you what was on the Stephen Schwartz playlist around that time. We wouldn't have called it that then, but what were you listening to around that time? Carole King, Laura Nyro,
You're naming it.
James
Yeah.
Taylor.
Yeah, all those amazing singer-songwriters from the Motown.
Yeah.
All the Motown sound. Holland Does Your Holland. Yeah.
Little known fact, the Pippin cast recording was on the
Was in
Motown
fact- yeah.
label.
Yeah.
I always brag that I'm a Motown recording artist.
Yes! With some Jackson 5 renditions that pop up on Sirius XM every now and then. I wonder whose fault that is. Anywho, okay, as we shut this down, we're going to go out with a song, but I'm going to do a rapid fire round. Favorite moment in the show? Favorite moment in the show? It doesn't have to be yours. Could be any moment in the show. Jack. It could be yours.
Oh, I tell you what my favourite one was hearing Patricia, who played my grandmother, because she was the original Catherine in Pippin in London.
Cool.
And she came back to play the grandma, so her singing her song to me, looking me in the eye, it didn't actually happen on
wow.
stage. Sorry, I know you said rapid fire, now I'm telling you.
That's okay. I love it.
I'll speed it up. But in rehearsal, she was singing her verse, and then she turned to me and she was like, "I think I'm gonna cry now." And she just started crying because she hadn't heard that music for so long, and it was touching her in a completely different way because she was looking back on her time when she was a young girl doing it. So that was my favorite moment of our process.
Love it. Tovah, being on the trapeze.
You take a 65-year-old broad, hang her upside down, singing a hit tune, and you will get a standing ovation.
100%. Love it. John, you already gave us such gold,
Yeah.
but
Well, I have two.
okay.
The first one, and that's the main one, Morning Glow.
Oh.
I loved the whole show. I loved doing it all. It was great fun, and I loved singing all the songs. One of them, I remember my brother came, and he said, "Boy, that must really feel good, that song where the two girls are sitting on your back while you're singing." I said, "No, that hurts. And I have to sing a high A flat while they're doing that. So not that. But Morning Glow, it's the moment in the play where Pippin thinks that he's solved everything and he's king, and Ben comes and puts the crown on. And that beautiful song, I love it, and how you wrote for the chorus in it. That's my favorite moment in the play, having done it for all that time. But then I had the great fortune of being in the second revival. Just after Tovah left, I took over for Terry
That's
Mann
right.
as Charlemagne. So there I got, my favorite moment was sitting in my dressing room, listening to the poor guy playing Pippin, having to sing all those high notes. And I had my feet up.
Oh my gosh, that's so wonderful. What are you thinking, Alex?
From this one, it is Morning Glow. It's standing on stage and listening to the chorus behind you and all the ensemble and the orchestra and the swell of all of that wall of sound behind you, and you just get to revel in it. It's spectacular and beautiful. But also from the original, the hands at the top of Magic to Do. That was, and then the lyric "Join Us," just seeing all these hands, it was actually beautiful. I'm obsessed with it. I will shut up now.
I wish you didn't have to. I know. Stephen, is that too hard of a question?
Well, I'd probably give a different answer tomorrow, but
fair.
what occurs to me tonight is actually the ending. And the fact that we struggled and struggled. Johnny, I know you don't quite agree with me.
Don't get me started.
But this is a disagreement we have. But we struggled and struggled with the ending of the show, and we were never entirely happy with it, and we kind of fought about it constantly. And then at a fringe production in London, I saw what became what we now call, well, I'm not going to give it away in case there's anyone who hasn't seen it, but what became the ending of the show. And I just, not only did I love it, but I know that that's what Bob would have loved. So it felt like sort of us agreeing on something, even if he wasn't there to agree about it.
Well, I just once again want to say on behalf of, I know, all of these hearts and minds and ears and eyes that are in this room right now, thank you for changing our world for good. Thank you for what you have blessed us with. When you need to feel better, you put on Morning Glow. When you need to feel better, you put on Corner of the Sky. You put on these songs, then that's just one musical, but they are such touchstones for so many of us through all of our seasons of our many seasons of our various lives. And so on behalf of so many people that you and your legacy have meant so much to, thank you, thank you, thank you. We're gonna go out on a high note with more from this Broadway HD production. Don't forget, Broadway HD has hundreds of incredible captures to enjoy, spreading the wealth of musical theater around and making it more accessible, which is more important now than perhaps ever before. So thank you, and thank you for being with us tonight, and thank you to our illustrious panel. You're all incredible. Are we exiting or
We won't be
staying?
able to see, so we should get off the
Exactly. Yeah.